everybody. It's me, Madam Onça. Thank you so much for joining us. Those of you that have been with us for the last couple weeks may notice that we have slightly different, slightly better credits as we continue to try to make things a little more snazzy and shipshape around here. If you are new and just joining us for the first time, again, my name is Madam Onça, and this is the Tarot Talk for Tower Times class. What we do here is a little bit of learning about tarot, how you use them, a little bit about history, answer questions about technique and so forth, and then open it up. Also, I usually do a little bit of ranting on the subject of tarot, social justice, and other things that matter to me. And then we do readings for people. So, and that is by donation. So that's the second half of things. If you just came over with me from Facebook, I appreciate that. We had an interesting thing this evening where we did about 45 minutes over there before coming over here. So if you made it, thank you. And if you're just joining us now, also thank you. So again, I'm Madam Onça, and I am the artist, creator, and co-author of the World Spirit Tarot, which is a deck that is now going on to its 20th year. I'm pretty excited about it. But it is just one of many tarot decks that I love. So it's the one that I know the best and the one that I'm going to teach from this evening. But I also have for you the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which is the most perhaps well-known tarot deck perhaps ever, and certainly of the century. So you have the opportunity to learn not just about what I have done with tradition, but where the tradition came from. So yeah. What else can I tell you? This is the fifth. I guess it must be the fifth week. Anyway, we are well into this series at this point. I taught tarot classes in various formats. I mean, I've taught them in person all over the country and also in some other places. But now, here in the pandemic times and the COVID times, I am learning to do these things on the online. So I am here as the extrovert's extrovert because I want to give you facts that are useful. I want to give you anecdotes that are illustrative, and I want to connect with you and make the tarot as fun for you as it is for me. It is a living tradition. It is a thing that changes with the times, as we should. Anyone who caught me ranting about Dr. Seuss last week knows I feel very strongly that we in the tarot need to move with the times. So again, it's a living tradition. So I want to give you that knowledge and that joy. Hi to everybody out there who is saying hello, hello, hello. Make sure that you stay hydrated, whatever that is for you. Be it water, be it wine, be it coffee, be it other. And if you have a tarot deck and you want to spread some cards out, we're going to be looking at the fives tonight. We are working our way so forth from ace and on up through the deck. We'll see how many weeks. Hey, it's Mab, just Mab. How many weeks it takes to get through the whole deck. It's a bit of an adventure. If you don't already know, a traditional deck of tarot cards has 78 cards and is organized into 5 different suits. They are exactly analogous to playing cards for long-winded historical reasons, but basically they're the same cards. They're all just relatives. And those suits are wands and heavens to Betsy. And then we have, it's wands, it's cups, it's pentacles, it's swords, and then it is the major arcana, which are the big guns that make it into the movies, as it were. So there are 5 suits, and there are 78 cards total. They go ace to 10 a bunch of times, ace to 10 wands, ace to 10 pentacles, ace to 10 cups, and so forth. And then they also have what are called the people cards, the face cards, or the court cards, sometimes the nobles. I like to call them the people cards because I'm not really here for some antiquated classist bullshit. Am I allowed to say that on Twitch? I forget. You're not, but I might be able to. So yeah, 78 cards. That's what you're usually looking at. And most modern decks are fully illustrated, by which I mean without knowing what the cards are about. You can pick any one of them up and go, huh, okay. I don't know what this card is about, but it clearly looks to me like a bunch of people gathered together. You know, this is a story of a bunch of people gathered together around the well in the town. Okay, I can. It's all. Sorry about the blazing glare. So you can look at it and begin to say, oh, I can see the dynamics at play. So the cards are fully illustrated. Now, hundreds of years ago, that was not the case. They were largely pictures of people, like very sort of fixed, iconic, status defined. They were intended to be. Uh, they were there with their scepter or their crown or their horse or whatever, or there was no picture at all, and it was literally there was no illustration at all. It was a picture of a sword or 9 swords. Whereas a modern deck, usually a picture of 9 swords is also a picture of what the 9 swords is about, if that makes sense. Essentially, they have been transformed as part of their evolution into a graphic novel, which is partly why they are more accessible to the every person, including you. So find yourself a deck that invites you in by being accessible rather than shuts you out by using a lot of coded language, unless that's your thing, unless you're like really into the decoding, which is that's a whole other jam. So what else can I tell you? So today we're going to do 5s. And if you were with me on my earlier Facebook, I apologize because we're going to cover that material again. Maybe this is the part where you jump up and get yourself a cup of tea. But I am going to share with you not just one deck, but several. How about now? Great. Good. If only you could see the amount of cameras, lights, and screens it takes to lay 4 cards on the table, you'd be so amused with me. Again, hi, thanks for everybody who's just joining me. I am Madame Onça. I am the artist and creator of the World Spirit Tarot, and I am excited to be here with you, giving you a little bit of information about the cards, their meanings. Since I made these particular cards, I also tend to share a bit anecdotally about the symbolism in my cards as compared to all tarot cards, and I'm totally here for your questions about techniques, tips, any of that stuff. Let me know what you need to know in order to make tarot fun and accessible for you. Also, there's a larger conversation around what is it and how does it work? That is a whole, we could have a whole sort of interactive lecture on that subject. If you do like tarot cards, why do you think they work? Do you think that it is because your subconscious knows things? Do you think it is because your guardian angel is giving you information? Do you think that you are sneaking a peek into the Akashic records? Do you think it's just a useful psychological tool, kind of a Rorschach with better pictures? Let me know what you think. There is no right answer. There are only strongly defended theories. And now we come to the 5s. So in tarot, we see ace, 2, 3, 4, 5. These things describe the evolution of your personal life experience. In other words, if you ask a question and you get all aces, that suggests that in every area relative to your question, you are in a fresh stepping off place, a beginning of raw potential, but not necessarily, not that you are naive, but you may not be experienced in that area. It is a new project. It is a new relationship. It is a new venture. It is a new expression, even of something that you may have experience with. So in some ways, it is raw. You get to the 2, a little bit of life experience. Hello. You get to the 3, it's a little bit more, you have more hours on the mat, so to speak. And so you have yet more experience. We get to the 4, there's a sense of a tableau, like our plateau. I keep switching those words in my mind. Tableau, like a table. So 4s, when they come up in readings, they tend to suggest a certain level of accomplishment. Like you got to that first level of the mountain where you get to turn around, catch your breath, look out over the vista before you continue your ascent. So when we come to 5, the 5 is the dramatic moment where it becomes apparent to you all of the things that you have not yet learned. 5s are the cards of chaos. So for anybody who's just joining us for the first time and doesn't know much about tarot, please don't be intimidated or daunted by the fact that all the interpretations I'm about to give you are fairly challenging. The 5s exist to describe challenging experiences. Parentheses, in making my deck, I studied a tremendous number of decks that were extant at the time. And, again, it's an evolving art form. But one of the critiques that I had for some of the decks I encountered were because 5s are difficult, some of the decks that were available at the time that I was doing my research had responded to not liking those cards by replacing them with different material. In other words, they said, we don't like competition, say, or conflict. We just changed that card to something else. And now it's the Five of Potluck Dinners. I appreciated that intellectually they were trying to make the world the way they wanted it to be, but in fact, they just gave the tarot cards one less tool to describe for you the challenging interaction that you might be facing in your life. So, the same as we need to be able to use medical terminology for human anatomy in Google in order to be able to function as fully informed adults, likewise, we need to be able to have cards that describe difficult things. And in this case, those are called the fives. So, that being said, we're going to start with this guy over here. This is the Five of Pentacles. Pentacles are practical matters. They are resources, security. To a certain extent, they're also health. So this card, fives, are things being turned up, chaos. So if you've got security and resources and a great turnover, that suggests a lack of security. That suggests housing insecurity. That suggests hunger. That suggests a lack of health care. That suggests feeling that you are shut out of safety, that you are shut out of the system. All of these things are what this card is about. I'm going to hold it a little bit closer here to my card cam so you can see it. I'll show you at the end the Rider-Waite-Smith cards that these are very much based on, which is a deck from the turn of the century. So you see here the figure seated on the stairs. They appear to be swaddled up in a coat or a blanket. They're in front of what is clearly some sort of luxe house, manor house, or church. Beautiful stained glass window. There's some kind of figure inside the door. This card was drawn and carved by me in such a way to leave it ambiguous as to whether you are the person on the stairs who may or may not know that help is nearby if only they knew how to ask, and the person inside who may or may not be aware that not everyone is experiencing the warmth and comfort of the home or the institution. So it was not a choice. This card used to come up for me quite a bit when I was a young and starving artist. Let's come over to the Five of Swords. Swords, intellect, air, decisions, communication. Once again, we have this notion of conflict. When we see conflict and chaos come up around decisions and communication and personal boundaries, we see here a person who has clearly come out on the worst end of an argument. You see this person is somehow they appear to be wounded in spirit and possibly in body. There's also a very clearly gloating figure in the background. There's a field of broken swords all around them, and this gray, gloomy weather blowing in or blowing out. But in either case, there's this suggestion of sort of heavy discomfort. We are clearly here in the aftermath of some sort of altercation. This card comes up around times when we are finding ourselves in that situation again that we so often are. So it may be a familiar dynamic. It may be a familiar sense of betrayal or disappointment. So fives, chaos. Here we are finding ourselves in difficulty because of decisions, communication, and boundary issues. Boop. I guess I'll bring that over to you. Boop. So it's intended to be a sort of stark landscape. And the question is, like, is their head bandaged, or do they just really like sporty headbands? Now we're going to come over to the Five of Cups. Pardon me. Cups are water. They are emotion. Speaking of which, drink your water. They are emotion. They are connection. They are how we feel and how we experience things. That notion of chaos, we have disruption in our emotional universe. In this case, we see a figure who has fallen to the ground. She is clearly in grief. I guess I should say they are clearly in grief. They are crying literally over spilled milk. You can see the contents of the goblets that they thought they had, they thought they knew, they thought were secure, are spilling out before But on the hill behind them, there is their trusty steed. So they will have a way to egress the situation when they are ready to move away from their understandable moment of pain and grief. You will notice also that several of these cups are not yet spilt. So, and I did make a choice to make this card very green intensive to suggest, as well as sort of flame feeling intensive, to suggest that there's a moment of change and hope of rejuvenation. And then our fourth of these cards over here, we see the Five of Wands. Wands are passion, fire, ambition, career. Add chaos to all of those things. And we see here, this card is most often interpreted as competition. And the question becomes, is it healthy competition of the strive to be your best self, to do your best job interview, as it were? Or is it competition of the elbows out, destroy everyone around you, or crush yourself with self-criticism variety? So the cards always ask you, they always give you homework. They always ask you, where are you? Are you the crushed person, or are you the gloater? Are you the person on the inside of the building with all the resources who doesn't know that there are those without? Or are you the person in need? This card in particular, I want to mention that my movement background before I began teaching belly dance was I taught capoeira, and I trained in capoeira, which is Brazilian martial arts. And so this is a card that is describing makulele. Makulele is a capoeira adjacent. It is a sort of ritualized, stylized folk art, and it is. It's a stick form, it's a sort of rhythmic stick fighting. It's really popular in like folkloric shows because you can be very acrobatic with it. But I've never seen it used at this point in history as an actual martial art. What it does is it displays your athleticism, your coordination, your capacity to move, to flow in and out of somebody's space. So it's highly performative and demonstrative and showy and flamboyant and competitive, but you only win at makulele if everybody comes out intact, right? So to me, it seemed like a great metaphor for healthy competition. And the rooster is in the front there to sort of demonstrate the notion of being puffed up and showing off. Again, performative agitation, but not the kind that causes you to actually destroy others. So I'll get that one closer. There you go. If you have any questions or comments about any of these things, feel free to pop them up in the chat. Oh, yes, I forgot to acknowledge my glorious controller and operator for this evening. The only person who makes it possible for me to be here talking to you is the person behind all the cameras and things. And that is Carmel Clavin, who is making it happen. Hi! Clamwell, thank you! And also to Nat 21 Adventures for having me here, because of course Twitch is most often, it is for gaming, it is for illustration, it is for map making, but we have decided that Twitch is for witches. So here we are, and thank you for having us. So these are the cards that I made. These are all cards from the World of Spirit Tarot. I wanted to share with you the same art that was done 100 years earlier by Pamela Coleman Smith. And the intention here is not only to get you familiar with the more the traditional expression, but also hopefully you can see now where I very much stayed in the spirit of it. But my goal in making my deck was to make it, a little more current, obviously, more relevant to our experience, but also inclusive in terms of skin tone, background, like geography, all of that sort of thing. So we see here with our Five of Pentacles, there's still, there's the snow, there's the folks in need, there's the sense of some, well-heated and powerful institution that has left the people on the outside. We see here once again with our Five of Swords, you've got, in this case, two people who appear to be limping off into the distance. This card brought the gloating person to the foreground, and I, opted to push that person back and make them a bit more of a background threat, and centralize the experience of the person who was feeling the struggle. Here we see this card Incidentally, the Five of Wands is traditionally the card of male secret societies because apparently it's all about getting a bunch of people together and hitting each other with sticks. So perhaps this could just be people hitting each other with wet towels. I don't know. But so there's the traditional representation of it, a full melee. And then here we have Pamela Coleman Smith's version of this, the, as I think of it, the spilled milk card. It was important to me in my illustration. Um, it was important to me in my illustration to put the figure on the ground and to really indicate that they weren't just like a little sad their stuff spilled, but perhaps that they were crushed. And thank you so much for everybody who is chiming in. There's so much history around the cards. In fact, there's a great book that I would love to recommend to you if you're interested in the art in Pamela Coleman Smith's deck. There's a book. Oh my gosh, what is it called? It's a resource that I use all the time. I'll bring it next time and post it in the links. Tal Goodman helped to write it. I think it's called the Rider-Waite Tarot or Waite-Smith Tarot. It's about this big, and it is literally some folks who went through not only all of the extant materials of hers. She, is the artist who made these cards. You have to understand, she was a woman, a self-employed woman. She was possibly multiracial. She was working as a independent artist during the Victorian era. She never chose to get married. There's some questions about whether she was or wasn't like an LGBTQ person. Her life is underdocumented because she was no one's wife. She was no one's property, if you'll forgive me for putting it that way. So it's taken us 100 years to find out very much about this person who made this very important piece of work. So Mary K. Greer, who's one of the eminent tarot scholars in the world, I think really started digging up, getting us information about Pixie Smith, who made this work and why she made these decisions. And then the folks who made this book that I would love to recommend to you, if I could think of it. Thanks, May. Aren't they awesome? Again, I want to say it's the Waite-Smith Tarot, maybe. The book, Tal Goodman, the folks that made it, what they did is they actually went back to all of the places that Pamela Coleman Smith worked where she was actually living when she did this art. And they realized a lot of these drawings, a lot of these vistas, a lot of these bridges, a lot of the artwork that you see in the background, they're all specific to the town she was staying in when she made it. So you can actually go, oh, she probably sat on this bench and drew this church. So it's very much about helping to contextualize why she made the artistic choices that she made. And also, again, she worked very much in the Shakespearean theater community. And so she lifted a lot of her imagery directly from the place that she worked into. So from that book, you will find out such interesting tidbits also as in the Queen of Wands. If you're familiar with the cards, there is a woman, queen, big yellow robe, surrounded by sunflowers, sitting, on a dais. It's very sort of classical. And there's a cat sitting there, and apparently it was supposed to have been a leopard. And she looked around and said, I don't have a leopard. I have this cat who lives in my studio. It's a black cat named Snuffles. And she drew the cat that she lived with, and it is in the cards to these days. So you go, ooh, dun, dun, dun. You got the Queen of Wands. It's Snuffles the cat. So if you're interested in this sort of thing, there's so much to learn. And thanks, May. Speaking of paper dolls, why don't we come over here and look at this for a minute? It's the face cam. So again, if you have any questions or comments about all the other stuff, pop it in the chat and my lovely operator will help me to know. So some of you may know that Mab Just Mab, who is one of the geniuses behind the Nat 21 Adventures Everything, her, Mab Just Mab and I go way back. And Mab Just Mab and I have been working on this tarot-related collaboration for, I guess my part goes back about it's been about 9 months now. It's a series of 24 drawings. Mab convinced me to be a little less analog and learn to actually draw on a tablet, which is a whole different thing when you've been doing block printing all your life. And so we are making magnetic paper dolls of the tarot with, our signature bent for inclusivity. So the first sort of proofs of some of them came today, and I'm going to show you in just a second, which is why I have the happy geeky look on my face. So I drew them. Mab colorized them. They're like these gorgeous watercolors. Again, the focus is really on making them sort of gender inclusive and body type inclusive. And what happened was I drew a sort of male presenting figure, nude figure, and a female presenting nude figure that are sort of ethnically ambiguous, if you want to think of it that way. And then drew tarot costumes. You slap them on there because they're magnets and they get to embody all of the archetypes. So what happens is the people who are my Patreons will start getting one of these in the mail every month, and eventually they will have all of the major arcana. So here's the fancy envelopes I got. It's like the golden ticket from Mab. I would have showed it today on Creating with the Crew, but they had not arrived yet. Here's the snazzy card. Magnetic Tarot Inclusivity Paper Dolls. I know it's a mouthful. And then Mab, clever thing that she is, actually made it so you open it up and there's the figures. And these are magnets, the kind that she has actually cut out and done by hand on her Cricut machines. So you see there's our folks. Here are their amazing, right? Look, so here is the universe. And this one is the Lover's card. It's very David Tennant, my favorite doctor, but also as the angel with the wings for the Lover's card, holding the lovers in his hands. And so, right, flailing cricket arms. So then you take them and you put them over the things. And it's very exciting. I'm sure there's a slicker way to do this presentation, but I don't know what it is. So you just get to, Muppet arms. I was wondering about cricket arms, but whatever. So you put that on there. She gets to be the universe, which of course is, juicy and expansive. I'm going to now put the Lover's card one on our dude over here. Hard to do upside down. If only my hands were a refrigerator, this would be easier. Yeah, there you go. They work great in the fridge or your appliance of choice. So you can see he becomes the angel. I know that Mab is working on colorizing the Empress, which this guy also gets to be the Empress with big glorious feathers and flowers and everything. So yes, anyway, I wanted to share that with you. I know that y'all Net 21 people understand how clever Mab is and the things she does, and she has helped to make this possible. So my Patreon people will be getting them in the mail. And for the next year. Thank you, May. And anybody else who wants to jump on board, we made a few extra. I have to tell you, it's very labor intensive for Mab and her Cricut machine to make these. We have looked into mass reproduction, but it's a huge thing. That's a huge deal. So for now, these will really be for the folks who want to sign up and want to do that. Maybe.
What level do you have to do
that? It's like my top 2 tiers. So I have a bunch of different levels on my Patreon for folks who just want to chip in something, and folks who want to learn tarot things, and then folks who actually want physical art objects from me, because of course I'm a creator and performer. So thank you for that segue. What we normally do at this point is segue into either I rant about some social justice subject that matters to me very much when it comes to the world of tarot, or we read cards. So
it is 8:30.
Which one should we do? Thank you, 8:30. I'm going to gather up my cards here. And if anybody wants a reading, let me know. It is, I'm going to read cards for you no matter what. If you want to make a donation, that's fine. But it's just good for me to be able to do stuff. Thank you, Mab. It's good for me to be able to do things for people. I also have my Gummy Bear Tarot deck here if anybody would like a bit more of a lighthearted deck. It is literally the Rider-Waite deck. Done with gummy bears. So cute. Awesome. Because of the format change, again, for folks who are just joining me now, I am Madam Onça, and this is the Tarot Talk for Tower Times, which Nat 21 Adventures is nice enough to let me do on here. Because of the protocol around not doing things on Twitch and Facebook at the same time, I guess. I just did a whole class on Facebook. I have to say, though, it was nice to come over here. I actually feel more like this is my home base at this point. So thank you for that. Now, why don't we talk about some different ways of reading cards, as in different spreads? One of the things in my own personal practice, when if I'm doing corporate gigs, if I'm doing parties, if I'm working with clients, I tend to generally have sort of an intuitive, what I call the kitchen witch approach, which is really laying cards down, asking them questions. Those cards lead to other cards. So you end up with this sort of an organic flow chart, as it were. It just kind of grows up and out. But if I'm, thank you very much for that question, Spectacle and Mirth. I'll get to that in a minute. But if I'm working with folks who have very specific questions, sometimes we will do things a little bit differently. And now I will illustrate on the card can. But we'll just sort of act it out. So having shuffled, having set some intention, asked the cards whatever the question is, having gotten right with my own intuition, or, however you believe the cards work with your own Atlantean angels or your subconscious, the fairies that live under your bed, whatever it is that helps you make your cards work, because it's different for everybody. When I've gotten that in order, I have divided my deck, I've shuffled my deck, I've gotten it ready to roll, and I'm ready to pull some cards. I will demonstrate for you. I typically, as I have mostly on this show, I will normally just feel across and I will go, this card is kind of fizzling a little bit. This card's kind of calling my name. Maybe feel around, maybe this card. And so those might be the cards that I pull based on my freewheeling kitchen witch format. As it gets bigger and bigger, it turns into a more of a dinner party format, because you end up inviting more and more of the card's friends over and asking them what they think. And they have more and more to say about you and what you need to know about yourself. However, if you want a more structured approach, maybe you're somebody who really thrives on rules, protocol, boundaries. Maybe it just helps you to kind of get a feeling for how to be comfortable with the cards as you get rolling. One of the things you can do is you can do a yes/no wild card spread, and I will show you what that looks like. I can't do anything too elaborate because my table is not that big. But you might, for example, say, I got invited to, take this job. I got offered a job, should I take it? And this could go for anything. This could go for, do you go on the date? Do you get the roommate? Do you get the 37th, bat familiar? Like, whatever your question is, you do you. But if it is a yes/no question, you might be, all right. So you get your cards, you shuffle them, you get your intention clear in your mind. And to be clear, when I'm working with the client or any person, it's a little different when you're on camera, because there's this whole, it's a whole different challenge to sort of stay in your body and in your intuition when you're in front of the camera. But what I am doing as I'm shuffling, I'm actually thinking, make me a conduit of information for this person. Excellent. Make me a conduit of information. So while I'm shuffling, while I'm getting my cards in order, that's what I'm doing. And then that question comes out: should I take this job? Should I not take this job? You lay out your yes card, you lay out your no card, and then you lay out your wild card. And that way you can say, all right, well, if it's yes, talk through this possibilities. That's what it would be like if I did take the job. All right, if I didn't take the job, that's what it's going to be like. Okay. Sometimes it'll be very stark alternatives. Or sometimes it'll be like, actually, both of these options are pretty good. And then you know that you're actually you have a lot of optionality in your life. And then the wild card is the one that's like, well, what haven't you thought about? That's the card that gives you the little extra information. Maybe there's another job or roommate or partner or option that is waiting for you, that is in the wings, and you will need to know whether to make space for it. So that is a simple, structured way to do a 3-card reading that might make you feel like you have a little bit more control. So, but I heard Mayhemmer made request for the Gummy Bear Tarot. Levity, let's do it. So, Gummy Bear Tarot. Love this deck. And I will say, it's my perception that this deck was on the front end of the quick everybody put your tarot deck in one of these Altoids tins trend, which I am very supportive of. Coming from the age in the old days, all tarot boxes were like foldy tuck boxes that tended to break down very quickly. Right? A box like this is great for the person who wants to stuff some tarot cards in their backpack and keep them with them. Just know that, you know, it's very metal, and will definitely show up as a metal box if you're flying back in the before times and the future times when we fly. So gotta love these little tins. This was put out by US Games, which is one of the biggest clearinghouses of tarot decks in the West. Super cute. I don't know anything about the artist except for they appear to be super duper German, maybe. Dietmar Bittrich. Super cute. They have this adorable backing, gummy bears. And be warned, this art is quite primitive. What's the word that we're using for that? It is right. Yeah, that's a better word. It is not primitive. It is adorably childlike is what it is. But at the same time, this is a Rider-Waite tarot deck. Let me see if I can find an example from the ones we were just doing. Those are 4s. Give me a 5. Hopefully, May gets some really hilariously dark and awful cards, and you'll get to see what the experience is of seeing, scary cards done in gummy bear. Let me see. Like, there's the Hanged Man, for example. Dun, dun, dun. It's so cute. Okay, May, my friend. Actually, a nice thing about this deck also is that it's quite small. So fits in a small space, like an airplane tray. So cute. May, if you're interested in your kids learning how to read cards, I highly recommend a deck like this because it does have archetypal integrity, even though it's cute as hell. Oh, they're nice and warm. Two. I'm just doing a what do we need to tell May right now sort of a reading. And because they're little, I can be a little more laissez-faire about like letting them slide around. You will notice that this deck looks the same whether you're coming or going. So it does not give you any indicator about up and down for folks who are interested in reading reversals or not. The Justice card, the Queen of Cups, and the Six of Pentacles. So we saw the Six of Pentacles came up in that previous reading. When we're doing a reading, the first thing we look for is a bunch of anything. In this case, we don't have a bunch of anything. We have 3 completely different sort of families of cards. You see the Justice card. That is one of the major arcana. It's one of the big movie actors, the high-paid actors of the tarot, as it were. So the Justice card tends to come up. Sometimes it means that we have an actual legal matter that is pending. Ermagerd, super cute, right? What's really funny is, like you can see here, Justice is just like they're wearing their clothes and sitting on what is apparently a green draped throne. But the Queen of Cups has a very long skirt. So it sort of looks like either this bear has the lowest breasts in the world, the knobbiest knees, or it is wearing a dress that is like 3 feet too long for it. Isn't it super cute? It's so adorable. And if you're familiar with the Rider-Waite deck, I mean, this is like a child's pastiche of that. So the Justice card tends to come up when we have perhaps a pending legal issue that needs to get sorted out. It's a house that's been tied up in situation. It is, somebody's custody thing, somebody's green card thing. Like when this card comes up, it usually means that you are going to see a judgment that goes in your favor. So that's good. Good news for you, if anything like that is pending. It also asks you to make decisions about your own. Oh, is it still your car accident? Could we get your car accident situation resolved? Because the justice card says that it's time for that to be over. Yeah, the justice card usually comes up around that sort of thing. It does ask you about your ethics, and I like to say it's a kind of a question of when sometimes it's about sometimes justice is different than the law, shall we say, and this card asks you to notice the difference. For example, folks who want to defend unjust laws. Every person who ever said, well, I just did what I was told, right? This card asks you, what is justice, not what is legal? So Nat 21 Adventures in no ways encourages people to do anything that is illegal. I, however, will say that there are times and places when it is appropriate to act against the law in order to be just. So this card comes up around both legal matters and we shall say like extra legal matters that are truly matters of ethics. So it's a powerful card to have coming up. It suggests that Lady Justice is on your side. Now, the Six of Pentacles came up for us earlier, and that is the card that is about, again, the sort of redistribution of resources. We see in this image there are two people who are perhaps mendicants. They are begging or they are seeking a redistribution of resources, and the other person is in a position to share. They're usually, if you can see up close, the bear in the fancy dress is holding a little tiny scale, and as well as a sort of purse full of money, and is going, what can I afford to give? What seems fair? How am I able to help? So this card very much comes up around generosity and, when do we give? When do we receive? Paying it forward. Oh yeah, two different sets of scales in this spread. Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you for noticing that, 21 Adventures. And then the Queen of Cups. This is a beautiful card that is about, she's like the ultimate role model, cups being emotions, relationship, and connectivity. She is the person in your life, perhaps it is the person you need to be, who can be fully emotionally present and available and loving and connected without getting sucked up into your bullshit. So this card is lovingly known as Love with Detachment. I am here for you. I hear what's happening for you. I am a mermaid. I am literally of the water that you swim in, but because I am a mermaid, I do not feel your waves, right? So she's a really beautiful role model in terms of being able to be caring, to care and be caring without being sucked in to drama that is exhausting. So we're going to say if we put these three things together, it feels like it wants to turn into a much bigger spread. We don't have time for that right now. But everything here is great. There suggests you need to do this. That's why I say she's a great role model for everyone, everyone of any age and any gender. Ideally, it's the capacity to be there for someone, and empathize with them without being sucked dry by that, right? It's without, you have to remember to refill the well, so to speak. So we see here this interesting mix between lots of scales, lots of justice, lots of redistribution. I really hope that this means that your car accident situation is finally going to get worked out, because you've been on the wrong end of that for too long. And this notion of being able to be emotionally expansive in order to help get things done without being drained by the work that it takes. So thank you for asking to use this deck, because it is really adorable. If y'all have another deck that you love, by all means, drop it in the chat. Most people have, there are D&D decks, there are Frank Frazetta decks, there are James Bond decks, there are baseball decks and cat decks and Welcome to Night Vale decks. You name it. There's tarot for every special interest. So let me know what you like. Did we have a question from the operator?
We are at 8:45.
Oh, we are at 8:45. We are just about ready to wind it down.
No one else.
Okay. So if we don't have any other questions, then given that this is our second show for tonight, we're probably going to wind it down pretty shortly. Uh, again, I want to thank, oh, hi, first time viewer. Oh my gosh. Hi there. All right. Yes, absolutely. So if you're just tuning in, I'm Madame Onça. I am the creator and artist of the World Spirit Tarot. Inclusivity is my thing when it comes to making sure that there are decks that express all kinds of genders, body types, geographies, architectures, all of the things. Very important to me. Magnus, I am wondering if you have a preference about which tarot deck. Right? It's a Magnus. If you have a preference about gummy bears, my deck, or the traditional Victorian deck, otherwise I'll just put my hand out and pick. And oh, thank you. Thank you, operator. All right. I'm going to jump over to the Rider-Waite deck unless I hear otherwise. So this particular deck, I know you can see here. Oh, thank you very much. This is a Rider-Waite deck. I have to say I probably own 5 different versions of this World Spirit deck. Okay. I've probably done 5 different versions of this deck. One thing to notice about the Rider-Waite deck, if you want to go pick one up to have, in your collection, they all have different coloring jobs. So the reason for this being that they were printed very hastily at the beginning when they first came out. In fact, Pixie Smith is noted for having said, I did the drawings fast. I'm sure that they're going to do a murderous job coloring them, basically. Like it was out of her control. And the original art, it is believed that it was all destroyed during one of the wars, that it was all bombed. So we don't have like an original version. We just have every time it gets printed, somebody goes, it's usually red pants, right? And there have been some very comic printing errors over the years, which is a subject for a whole other day. But I will say this particular one, it has this interesting sort of pink Anki sort of background. Someone mailed me this deck. They said they bought it in the 60s on Haight Street in California. I don't even know who it was. So if it was you, thank you. Somebody shipped me this because it was their deck from back in the day and they knew I liked decks. So thank you. This deck itself, it's older than me. All right. So Magnus, to your question. Do you want to pop that up for me again so I can look at it? Has what I have been dealing with for the last few days resolved? All right. If we were together, I would hand you the deck for you to do the shuffling and sort of lay your intention into it. Since I'm doing it for you, if you'll just take a breath in for me and hold your question in your mind. So I can pull for you. Okay, let's see what we've got. So the first thing we always look for is an abundance of anything in particular. We don't see a preponderance of cups or a preponderance of major cards. You have 1 cup, 1 pentacle, and 1 of the major arcana. That means we've got a card about practical things, sort of brass tacks, health and wealth, resources, security, safety, that kind of thing. We've got cups, which is about emotional connectivity and how we relate to ourselves and others. And then you've got, again, a major arcana. We're going to start with that guy because he's a bit of an attention grabber. So the Hanged Man is one of the big, the well-known actors in the tarot, and interestingly, he has several different sets of correspondences. It is an image, of course. He is hanging from the world tree from Yggdrasil. He is hanging over the waters from the yew tree. He's trying to, basically, he's on a vision quest. So he is engaged in short-term challenge for long-term gain. So it is the short slog for the long benefit. He is hanging upside down, gazing into the waters below, trying to find the runes that he can bring some language to the humans in order to make their lives better. So he's essentially on a vision quest. Another way of looking at this card, he's literally all hung up. Like, he's not in danger. I mean, he's hanging from his ankle, but he is all hung up. So he has been in a state of suspense, literally, for a while now. That card coming up first made me immediately assume that perhaps you weren't quite out of the woods, but the other cards are so positive. We'll talk more about that. Sometimes this card comes up literally to suggest that you're stuck. Sometimes it comes up to suggest that you are doing the hard thing now for the long-term goal. He also suggests that you usually will benefit from some sort of, if you'll forgive the visual pun, like a change of perspective, like learning to see things in a different way may help you to go, oh, I wasn't really in danger the whole time, or whatever. So he has there's a lot of layers to the Hanged Man. Now, the Nine of Cups, here's our card about connection and emotional connectivity. This is a great card. There's literally the bluebird of happiness perched on the edge of their cup. So this is a great card that suggests emotional safety, fulfillment, being in a position to be the benevolent one. Everything about this person is sort of, what's the word? They're like bodacious, and they can wear what they want, they can do what they want. They're just showing you, the abundance that they have. So it suggests being in a position to be able to, turn the cheek and be generous. And then on the realm of the practical, again, this is the gold coins and hit points card. You've literally got the Ace of Pentacles, which suggests the beginning of a new project, new venture. It is all about raw potential. It is the seed that is bursting to get out of its shell. So while I don't know much about your situation at the moment, it appears to me that you must be, if not in the woods, not out of the woods, that you must be very close to getting out of that state of suspended animation, as it were, because these cards are just really badass. So I hope, Magnus, for you, that this is really portends good things. Again, that Hangman has, it can just be a metaphor for being kind of stuck. He tends to have a lot of depth, though. He tends to have a lot to say to you about what's really going on in the deeps of who you are and the deeps of what you want and how you relate to the world. So even if whatever it is just about over, it might be worth really getting in there and doing some archaeology and figuring out just how deep down this adventure goes. So, great. Spot on to what has occurred. Those are my favorite readings. Thank you. Glad I could help.
Did you say an archaeology pun at him?
I did. Ooh, archaeology. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been my pleasure to be with everybody. Unless there's anybody else out there who needs me now, I suppose we'll probably wind it down as we continue to refine the model. If you have questions, if you have comments, please share. If you have friends who would like this sort of thing, please let them know. I know it's a kind of a wacky thing to have on Twitch, but I really enjoy this format, and I have really come to know Nat 21 community, and really am glad that I have a way that I can be with y'all that isn't always in full costume. You were tripping out when you saw the Hanged Man. It's important to make note of the puns. Tarot cards, I mean, it's a visual language. Twitch is for witches. The cards evolved over hundreds of years to give us like a dream language, a visual language to communicate things. Like in that previous one, thank you. In that previous one where we're like, oh, that's a lot of scales. What is that about? Scales are about weight. Honestly, one of the things that came up from when I was thinking about May with her situation, May has been managing some health concerns through the pandemic, and her like putting on weight has been a huge benefit for her because she's always been concerned about being underweight. And the fact the scales came up, not only is it about weighing questions of justice and right and wrong and resources, but in her case, it can literally be a note about being like, look at you. I know you're outgrowing your costumes and it's not convenient, but your overall health is really glad, right? So, for Magnus, you get that hanged man to suggest like that you're martyred or trapped in a situation. It's really great to have the cards sometimes they just shout at you in the only language they have, which is the language of words. Another example is, I'm in some tarot nerd groups, and somebody was saying, "Hey, you guys, I'm asking questions about this guy, relationship possibility, etc." And I don't remember what the cards were, but most of the readers were like, "It's not even about what these cards mean. Like, these cards are clearly about somebody coming at you as fast as they can, knives out. This person is either in it to hurt, like they either want to damage you in a vindictive way, or they're just really excited about BDSM." And like if you're into that, that's what this person has for you. Like that was what was written into the body language of the cards. Even if you want to sit down and break them down historically, what they each mean, literally everyone is charging towards her with their pokey things out. I had to laugh out loud that, it's like, right, sometimes you just have to take them at face value for the visual puns that they offer you. In addition to, hundreds of years of accreted meaning, it's like, if that looks like your dog, it's probably talking about your dog. If they're talking about you being concerned about being chronically underweight, this has something to say about it. So letting yourself have a sense of humor about the cards is really great, because they definitely have a sense of humor about you. I think with that I'm done. Thank you everybody so much. Again, I want to thank Carmel Clavin for being my operator, because it is impossible for me to do this for you without somebody doing all of the other things. So here's a huzzah for Clamwell for doing her part.
You're welcome.
Woo! And thanks to Nat 21 Adventures for having me here. Get it, Carmel. And also, to Paula Garbanzo, my sweet partner, who gave me my new updated credits minutes before this show went on the second time today, when we realized that the old credits were up. He fixed them and did it 30 seconds beforehand. He's not even here. He's out of town installing someone's bathroom. And he jumped onto the internet and did that. So thanks to Paula Garbanzo also for making things possible. Even when he's not here, he's just a helper. So thank you, everybody. I'm glad to be a resource. Feel free to contact me during the week if you have questions. I'm happy to talk to you more about your readings. It's what I do. And then I know that Nat 21 has, I know Shakespeare is doing sonnets here tomorrow. I know that, of course, there's all the Sunday side quest stuff. I'm not even sure what else I'm missing. There's of course the haiku wrap up. There is Carmel does her bedtime stories, saucy science fiction from the boudoir. Oh, there you go. Thank you very much. And that's right. Tomorrow night is Gothic Horror Gaming with their snazzy logo that I made on my new electronic tablet because Mab showed me how. So this place has everything. So thank you so much. I will see you around the block. And have a great night, everybody.